So that's a post-it note diagram. And the next step, and I've sort of stolen this all within one tip, is to make it into a Gantt chart. And this is an example of a Gantt chart. Anybody know why it's called a Gantt chart? It is named after Mr. Gantt, yeah. Yep, Henry Gantt. He was around in about 1900. So Gantt charts have been around over 100 years, and they've not changed in that time. I think they're the oldest surviving management thing. Although, when I said that the other day at a talk, somebody went, no, I think you'll find Florence Nightingale invented pie charts. So they are the second, did she? Well, I don't know. But they might be the second oldest management thing, but they're much better than pie charts anyway. And they've been around 100 years. And when computers came around in the sort of 1980s, all that happened was you got computerized Gantt charts. They haven't changed at all. And nobody's found a better way. There is no other way to see something mapped out and to monitor the progress other than a Gantt chart. So all a Gantt chart is, it's just got time along there, probably in weeks. You can see I did this in Excel. You could be very fancy and get Microsoft Project if you want to spend 400 quid and learn it and then fight with it constantly. Actually, can I do a survey? How many of you have seen Microsoft Project? And how many of you have used Microsoft Project? And how many of you like Microsoft Project? Yeah, it is just the most infuriating bit of software, isn't it? The undo button doesn't work and it argues. And you know, if you speed a task up, it goes, oh, I've allocated 3 more people because you'll obviously be needing them. And you go, no, I was just going to do it quicker. And if you say that's a bank holiday, it goes, no, you've got to work on Mondays. Monday's a working day. And you go, no, it's a bank holiday. It goes, no, it's a working day. And it's been taught certain things which it won't let go of. Oh. So I think Excel, it's cheaper, we've all got it, we know how to use it. Plus, if you email Excel to other people, they can open it. But with MS Project, you can't open it unless you've got it as well. It's just completely... So I think Excel's great. And you can see all I've done, I've just put the dates along there. I've got the tasks there. And then I've just coloured in the boxes. I've actually used conditional formatting to colour it in. But you don't have to be that fancy unless you wanted. Do you know about conditional formatting? You just click on Format, Conditional Format, and you tell it if there's anything in the box, colour it in. So then when you put the numbers in, it colours in automatically. And I told it that the first 4 lines were red and the rest was blue. So what you've got on this Gantt chart, and by the way, this isn't the Gantt chart of that, in case you're doing your head in trying to work it out. But what you do is you look at the critical path and you just draw that coming down in steps on there, you know, with the right lengths of tasks. So that's really easy. It's always coming down in steps, so that each thing's got its own line there. And then you put in all the floating tasks. So you say these 2 have got to be done after that's finished and before that starts. So you just put them in there. And after I drew it, I then decided to have a holiday in August. So what I did was I just inserted 2 more columns and just moved the whole thing across. So it means I finished 2 weeks later than I thought, but I've got to have my holiday. And the great thing about Excel is you can do that kind of thing. You can just insert columns and move stuff around. So the floating tasks are all just, if you like, hanging off the critical path. So you can see here, advertise. I'm going to do that as soon as I've chosen my country. I could start advertising. And as long as it's done by the time I open at the end, then it's fine. So it's actually a floating task, and the little arrows show the float it's got. And then there's a sort of secondary decision I've got to make about where I want to float those tasks. So do I want to advertise straight away, or do I want to leave it till later? Or do I want to extend the advertising and use all the time that it's got available? And similar decisions there, like recruiting the manager. Do I want to get the manager straight away or a bit later? I think actually I would get the manager quite early, because then he or she could help with other stuff. And then recruiting the staff, which comes at some point after the manager, I think I would do that quite late, because I don't want them sitting around for ages costing me money before I open. So once you've got the Gantt chart, you can decide where the floating tasks are going to be, and it's easy. So my tip 5, what I want to say really in tip 5, it partly is it's a good idea to have these diagrams, but also you must have both. And everybody has seen Gantt charts, and most people don't really like them because they've tried to create them from nothing and they found them difficult. And my point is, if you do the post-it note diagram first and then make it into the Gantt chart, it's easy. Because it would be very hard just to create that. But if you've done this, then it's very easy just to get the critical path, draw that, and then have all the other floaters hanging off it. So if you do it in 2 stages, it's far easier. So instead of spending an hour trying to do a Gantt chart and getting it wrong, I'm saying spend 20 minutes doing your post-it notes, or perhaps half an hour, and then literally probably only 10 more minutes to draw out the Gantt chart. Now, if we were doing a day on project management, I'd give you one to do, and you could try it, and you'd see it's easy. In fact, we could try it on a real project you have. And it is amazing. It literally only takes 20 minutes to do the post-its, and then it literally only takes 10 minutes just to make them into a Gantt chart. But the big tip is do both, hence "and" in capital letters there. By the way, as always, we'll send you these slides. What we'll do after this, we'll email you and we'll say, did you like the talk? And providing you don't totally slag me off, we'll send you the copy of the slides, so if you want them. Okay, so do post-it notes and a Gantt chart, not just a Gantt chart. That's tip 5. Tip 6 is that if you add the critical path up and it comes to more than you thought, and I was doing a training course a while ago for Bristol Council, and we did a real project they had, and their project was switching on the Christmas lights, which I thought was a bit bizarre since it was July. But anyway, I said, all right then. And I also thought, is it complicated enough to really be a project? Because surely switching on the Christmas lights is just, you know, flick a switch. But no, it's amazingly complicated because they have to close the whole city centre, they have a helicopter flying around, they have special parking arrangements, they have a market weaving up through, you know, there's a marching band or something. They have loads of stuff going on. So I said, oh, okay, great, we'll have that. It's a good project. So they did their diagram and they had all the sequence of things. And by the way, do you know when they switched the Christmas lights on? It's the middle of October, can you believe? So when they worked out the time they had from July to the middle of October, in fact, they're probably switching them on now, but they worked out the time they had from the middle of July to the middle of October, and it wasn't enough time. And they were already too late to switch on their Christmas lights. So there they were on the training course going, oh my God, we haven't got enough time. And that quite often happens when you work out, you find the critical path is unacceptably long. So what can you do if this sequence of tasks is going to take too long? What are your options, do you suppose? Remove some, did you say? Yeah, you could just not do some and say, oh, sorry, we won't have the Christmas market. So you could, and I would call that reducing the quality. So you could bring the quality down, couldn't you? Yeah. Or you could put more resources in, which I would call putting the money up. Yeah, so you could throw money at it. And really, they're the only choices, aren't you? Because if you're trying to reduce the time, thinking about my 3 circles, really your only options are quality down or money up. Well, there is one more kind of option, which is to overlap some of the tasks. But get your team to work smarter, not harder. Yeah, just have a better plan, you mean? Get them to be more efficient and effective and motivated. Yeah. Or shift the end date. Yeah. I'm still thinking about that. It's kind of, you could do that. You could shift the end date. You could let the whole thing slip as well. Yeah. You could actually switch the lights on in December, like they bloody well should be. Yeah. When I'm dictator of the world, there will be no Christmas music until December. You won't be allowed to put engineer on the side of your van unless you are one. I can't remember what my 3rd thing was. Voluntary workers. Oh, right, when I'm dictator, you mean? Or just oh, you're thinking about speeding it up, yeah. Yeah, you could put more resources in for no extra money. That's the NHS solution, yeah. So I've got here time down, costs up. Yeah, so bring the time down really means costs up or quality down. You can overlap as well. And you know, sometimes you can find cunning ways to do it. But the main thing is you know you've got a problem. And what some people do when they're doing their post-it notes or when they're doing the estimating, they say, well, we just can't put 6 on there because we haven't got enough time. We'll have to put 4. But if you just change the number from 6 to 4 on there, it doesn't mean you get the project sooner. It just means you've now got a plan that's stupid. So what you must do is you must put what you really think on your plan and then see whether you're in trouble or not. And if you are, then you need to have a plan to get yourself back out of trouble. So if you know you've got to throw more resources at it or you know you've got to reduce the quality, that's great because you know what your problem is and what you're going to do about it. So do the plan without even thinking about the finish date, add it up, discover you're in the poo, and then do those things there. Costs up, quality down, or overlap. And we're always stuck with those same three circles, really, so you know, you can't really get out of those. It was interesting you were saying work smarter or get voluntary people, and you know, at the moment, the public sector is desperately trying to find a magic answer where they can still maintain their quality and still cut the money because they haven't got the money and still deliver things on time. But actually, in the end, the law is that you've got those three things, and in the end, you will probably have to reduce your quality, or the public will have to wait longer for services. Waiting lists will have to get longer. And that's inevitably going to happen. And at the moment, they're just trying to squeeze a bit more blood out of you by making you work harder. And what that's doing, really, that's putting the money up, except they're not paying you for it. But there's a limit to how much they can do that, and I think we're at that limit, aren't we, really? So you can't really break the laws of nature, which is what they're trying to do.
Chris, you know they say there's no such thing as a new idea. Do they?
I don't know if they do. Okay, then.
Well,
We'll carry.
if that's right,
Yeah.
then there's no such thing as a project. It's just a process for a previous project.
Yeah. Therefore, there must be such a thing as a new idea. But it's a good point. If you take, for example, the Olympics, would you call that a project? I think I would. Although you could argue that all the people working on it have probably done similar things before. I would hope. In fact, if you had any sense, you'd employ the people who did the Chinese and Australian Olympics, because they were really good, possibly not the Greek one, I don't know. But you'd employ people who'd worked on previous Olympicses, wouldn't you? Or at least people who'd built buildings like that, built stadia before and things. So for them, perhaps it is a process. So you start wondering whether anything is a project. But yeah, there are lots of things that are sufficiently different to count as a project, I think. I just can't think of one offhand. Yeah, there must be things that are new. I think there are such things as new ideas. And, of course, there are things that are new to you. So in your job, you might be doing something you've never done before, and there's probably people out there who have, but you could still use this to do something you hadn't done before. Maybe that's the answer. It's new to you.
And I think the environment is different and people are different. And basically, I might think even at breakfast, if you've got a different team bringing it together, possibly with a different menu, things like that. I'm not wanting to change it for a process, but I think that I would say that if you try to approach it in a planned way, then you're more likely to succeed.
Yeah. But there is an essence of truth in what you're saying, because the breaking down of things into tasks, the idea is to break it down into stuff you recognise. So, for example, if I was going to do a training course in Cairo for 20 people from all over Africa, which I did a while ago, do you think that's a project? I've never even been to Egypt before or anything, and you know, I think that would be. But if I break it down into buy plane ticket, book hotel, you know, book taxi, convert money into Egyptian money, you know, buy, what's that stuff? What's the stuff that stops you going to the toilet again? Immodium, yeah, buy Immodium. You know, I've done all those things before, unfortunately. And so it does become then almost a process, because doing each of those things is now under control. So the idea of listing the tasks and estimating is that you actually do get control of a big, horrible thing. It becomes manageable. So you're almost reducing your project down into a series of processes. But anyway, that's too philosophical, but we could, yes. But you're kind of right, that's what this is trying to do. And then just draw it out as a plan.
Project is a really inefficient thing to do.
It is. And it's difficult, but it has to be done because we're launching into the unknown.
There's two more things you could do. You could break the rules. You could change the rules.
Break the rules or
Like
change.
health and safety, you've got to have a certain number of police
Yeah.
to manage. You know, you say, oh, we'll say we've got 20 police, but we'll only have 2. And hope no one notices.
I think that's reduced quality, though.
If the law says you have 20 policemen in the phrase, you get the government to change the law to say that.
Yeah.
2 for this one.
But that's getting permission to reduce quality. And I think in real life, people do reduce quality and hope they aren't going to get caught, and that's, you know, it's an option you've got if you want to run the risk. Yeah. I still think that's reducing quality, though, really, isn't it?